Hello and welcome to sickmemories.com. My name is Zahed Suri, and today we have a very special guest. I'm joined with Dr. Kam Singh Gill, who's the Vice President at the Kal Academies. Dr. Gill, could you talk a little bit about your educational background?
Yes. Yeah, I had my elementary education in a village, a small village, where you used to sit on this small tots, etc. You don't have chairs or tables. Then I studied for middle class also in the rural setup. Then I studied in a city. Then I had my BSc agriculture from Khalsa College, Amritsar, which is a very one of the best institutes in Punjab in India. Then I have masters from Government Agriculture College, Ludhiana, Punjab, in 1951. Then I was served for some time in the Department of Agriculture as a research assistant. Then I had some promotion as assistant oil seed breeder, and then I was selected. The university came into being, the Punjab Agricultural University, in October 1962, and I was the one of the first people to be selected by the university for foreign education. So I had my PhD in genetics from University of California. So I went back and joined the university. This university was set up in 1962 as per the government policy at that time. At that time, the country was facing acute shortage of food grains, and the food grains were being imported from various countries like US, Canada, maybe Australia, to feed the growing population. But we have to do something and find out what are the various reasons, causes. So under that policy, we did collaboration with United States, and a collaboration was established to establish universities in agriculture on the basis of land grant pattern as you have in US. Because in US also at one time in the beginning, land grant universities were created, which have now into large campuses, and countless cities have grown around them. So that policy, the Agriculture University was number 2. First was at in the Uttar Pradesh government, Uttar Pradesh state, and this was the second university to be established in 1962. Under that policy, under that collaboration, that's why we got sent to foreign studies. So I returned from my studies, get my PhD, and on my return I was appointed as a professor head Department of Genetics in this university, and there are some about a year after I was appointed as head Department of Plant Breeding, which is a very important largest department of the university, particularly dealing with the improvement of various kinds of crops like cereals, wheat, rice, and cotton, sugarcane, all those crops which are grown in Punjab. So we are concerned with mostly research, also teaching of the subject of genetics and plant breeding, and then also doing some extension education work, passing on the technology to the farmers. So that's how I got my education and joined this university. Yeah.
And now you have an extensive background dealing with the Green Revolution.
Yes.
Could you talk to our viewers what the Green Revolution is?
The Green Revolution term has been used for the rapid increase in production. From a certain level, low level of production, there was a sudden or a sharp increase in a few short time as compared to the previous level. If we are getting a 1 quintal of food grain from a unit area, then with the Green Revolution, the production went up to even 2 quintals from the same unit area. So in agriculture, as in 1947, India got independence, and under this process and this repatriation of populations, particularly in Punjab. Punjab, which was a large state in India, starting from near Afghanistan, Peshawar to Delhi, 5 rivers flowing through it. That's why it's called Punjab. So it was cut into half. The western part went to form as Pakistan, and the eastern Punjab came to India side. So area was reduced. And agriculture, particularly before partition, was more developed in the western side, the area which went to Pakistan, as compared to the east area. There were traditional methods of growing crops and satisfied with whatever was produced. So that could not, as a result of this, there was a kind of very acute shortage of food grains. To improve the situation, these things were assessed. It was found that our varieties, the crop varieties which are growing particularly in wheat and rice, they has a larger stock, and they are good for rain-fed conditions or low irrigation conditions. But if you want to increase their productivity, get more wheat from a certain area, then you have to apply water, the water to the plant, nutrition, better nutrition. As in human beings, somebody is weak, so you improve your nutrition. Similarly in crops, you improve your nutrition by putting fertilizers, nitrogen, potash, or phosphorus, or micronutrients, whatever the requirements of the crops are. Then provide irrigation facilities, and also see the crop should be, the variety should be good. If such a particular person, his height is low genetically, whatever you may feed him, you exercise it, he will grow only to a certain extent. So therefore the varieties which are growing, they were tall growing. You try to put more irrigation, more fertilizers to improve the nutrition, they were not able to stand this. They will fall down. As a result of that was a block in the productivity. So we had to look for this. In this process, we got collaboration with Mexico, a international center for research on wheat and maize. Dr. Norman Borlaug, he was director of that institute at that time. He was invited to India also, and that our scientists, they had discussions. And in this process, we got some wheat materials which he has developed in Mexico, and the wheat type which was suitable for growing in India also. Out of those 700-800 lines which he provided samples, 1 or 2 samples they were found to be good, and those were given names. The Punjab Agriculture University, the first to give that name as a Kalyan, and then Delhi Center also selected the same line that was named Kalyan Sona. So that way again became the first improved wheat variety with a short stature, relatively short stature, and high productivity, and also free from various kind of plant diseases, rust, or smuts, etc. So that spread very rapidly. As a result of this, productivity improved. So when I joined this department in 1967, that variety as in cultivation, but in due course that also developed. The diseases also evolve. As we develop varieties, the diseases in the natural condition, they also evolve. They also compete with for their food with the food grains. So as a result, this variety also became susceptible to rust and etc. So we had to work for this, and we developed number of varieties which are better than that, particularly WL 711 and other number of varieties in bread wheat and durum wheat, triticale, like this. And as a result of this, the productivity which has come to a certain level with the growing of towards Mexico, but it was stagnant, it again had a jump. And it has such jump that this variety, WL 711, spread not only throughout Punjab, but also in Pakistan, Punjab. They also imported this seed, and 70% area of West Punjab also covered by this variety, and other places also in India. And I got a letter from one of the lawyers from Multan, that's in Pakistan. He came to visit Delhi, on a short visa, but he couldn't come to Ludhiana. So he wrote me a letter on the way that I have come here. I wanted to come to Ludhiana and congratulate you. I'm a farmer also. I'm a liar, but I'm a farmer. I'm growing your wheat. It has given wonderful results. So when I pass through Ludhiana, I'll go to the university for this nomination. Anyway, like this. So this is how. And as a head of the department of plant breeding, there are other crops also improvements are made. In rice also, similar situation prevailed at the time of partition in 50s. That also improved. We had collaboration with IRI International Rice Research Institute based in Philippines. Like the wheat was in Mexico, center I told you. Similar center for rice that was in Philippines. We still have collaboration with those organizations. So as a result of this, this Punjab, which was cut into two, and which farms only 1.5% of the area. If you consider area in India, it's only 1.5%. But its production has increased to the extent that 60% of surplus rice, 40% of surplus wheat, since that time is being contributed to the central pool of food production. That it has not only produced sufficient for themselves, but surplus food for the country, and even now this is being exported also. So it is because of along with the invention of the varieties, my colleagues in the other departments collectively in a team basis, they developed fertilizer schedule, what kind of food we should give, how much nitrogen we should give, how much phosphorus, potash, or micronutrients like this. Similarly, what kind of irrigation, how many irrigations, how many times irrigation should be given, and also if there is some disease, how to control them. It's a collaborative effort. Our basic is your genetic material, your variety. If he has a good response, everything will work. Otherwise, no. So therefore, it's a combination of teamwork which has resulted into this increase, enhanced food unparalleled in the history of this agriculture, which has been now called Green Revolution. So this is how Green Revolution has taken. Along with the technologies, you had policies of the government. If you are to irrigate, you need water, irrigation water. So the government, we have canals, the canal system also, it was not sufficient. So therefore, we needed to dug out water from the soil. For this, you need electric motors, you need electricity. So the government provided electricity to all the villages, a network of electricity. And because now all the village in Punjab is connected with electricity, with metal roads, so that farmers can move their fruit grains freely and go up and down to the cities, to the markets, etc. Then markets were arranged, proper marketing places were formulated. Then above all, a policy was made at the level of Government of India, which is a uniform policy. Whatever cereals, rice and wheat are produced, their market price was fixed in advance of the produce. When the crops were to be harvested, before this, the rates were fixed. On the basis of technical income experts, the economists, they worked out after growing this crop, you need so much cost, you must give any profitability, what is the net profit of the you get. So on this basis, the Government of India will have a commission, and that commission makes recommendation, it goes to the government, and then they pass that this year this wheat will be procured at such and such price, rice will be procured at such and such price, and all the produce which farmers will produce, that will be purchased. It's not that farmers go to the market and there's no buyer, but that was essential. The government has commitment, they had to follow. So all these policies combined together resulted in this enhanced food production.
Could you talk a little bit about the cultural implications of the Green Revolution in Punjab?
Yes. Punjab, as you know, it is the land of saints and sages. Guru Nanak has, all the Gurus have blessed this state, the Shees Munis. And Guru Nanak has given us the way of life, how individual can live successfully, how he can achieve the mission of his life by living in a family, enjoying the family life, at the same time following that method of meditating on the divine name, doing hard this your rightful actions, doing righteous works like deeds, and also having the humanity by contributing something from your income. As a result, it's a very prosperous state. But in due course, various kind of vices has been coming, like drinking, excessive drinking, your drugs, and also less education, particularly in the rural areas. But with the Green Revolution, these things enhanced. People got more income, so instead of using the income for the education of their children or for other such development work, the excess income invariable was misused in way of drinks, etc. That also affected the younger generation. They also fell prey to this, and also no attention was paid to the rural education, the education standards being poor. So people got frustrated, young generation got frustrated and get involved in this intoxicants and it's unfortunate that even now they are in very excessive use. So there was a very critical situation, how to improve the standards of education in rural areas, villages, how to see that our generation doesn't fall prey to these intoxicants and these kind of drugs. So in this, under this situation, there was a proclaim that people that are holy persons like Sant Atar Singh Ji of Mastwana and his disciple Sant Teja Singh, who has his MA LLB from Punjab University in 1901, and he has a distinction in his education. Then he joined service in the government of India, British government, a very high position. But he was not happy with that. He was to perform magisterial decisions. As a result, where the defaulters are put into jail, etc. I didn't like this, so he wanted to leave. He left. After a few years, he left that job to join education in Khalsa College Amritsar. He was appointed as vice principal of Khalsa College Amritsar, and then thereafter also soon he was made principal of the college. So he is involved in education, and then thereafter, I don't want to give you details of that. It's a very long story, but during when he's studying, when he's teaching in Khalsa College, he was teaching also and also managing the Khalsa College institution, which was very top institution in India at that time, like a university itself. He got in contact with Sant Atar Singh Ji, a holy man, a God-conscious person, and as a result of this, he was so came into change his mind that he should serve people rather than doing service in the institutions. So Sant Atar Singh Ji opened a school in 1906, and at that time Sant Teja Singh Ji, he dedicated her life for this purpose. He left his job and dedicated this for this cause. But Sant Atar Singh said, Mr. Singh, I know you are highly educated, but I want you to go to Western countries, UK, USA, like this, and get a still more better education, learn the methods of the West, and then come back, and so that we can run our schools of such standard, international standard. With this intention, he came to UK. He studied in Cambridge University, in first one term in London University, then in the Cambridge University. A first person Sikh with turban and his hair intact. Otherwise, before that, a person has to shave himself, at a hat, and then go to the. He was the first person who discussed this with the management and convinced them that this is the right. So he is the first person, and then opened the way for others to join the institution. But he was not later given degree because of certain political reasons. Then he joined Columbia University in New York in teachers training program. And during that program, after a few months, there was a discussion in the class. Professor who come from Britain to teach there, and he was discussing Rudyard Kipling, the poetry, and he mentioned that that this poet has a great humor in him. The students in general agreed with the professor, but Sant Teja Singh Ji, he stood up. He said, no, he had no humor. Humor rises from the heart. He has no humor. He only tried to create humor by making sentences and using combination of words, etc. The professor was convinced, kept quiet. He went to his office after the class, then called Sanji to his room and made him sit on his chair respectfully. Then said, Mr. Singh, you are a very wise person. I want you to give a lecture on the present day India in a university hall. I'll make arrangements. I will invite public and the university people to this lecture. Sanji said, the present day India is Guru Nanak's India. He said, give 2 lectures, one on present day India and the other on the Guru Nanak. So these 2 lectures were held. Sanji addressed the gathering in these 2 lectures on one day on the first time, second the next time in 1908. And 2 things happened out of the delivery of these lectures. One was about 200 to 300 white people. They met Sanji. They said, we are very impressed with your lecture. We are very impressed with the way of the life which Guru Nanak has given us, told us. So therefore, we wish that you could discuss with us every Sunday. We'll meet together, and you kindly deliver us quiz courses at the time. Second was that those lectures were covered widely in the press. Even President went to the Canada and far and wide in the UK also, USA also. So in the US, in Canada at that time, the Indians have started immigrating to that place. About 5,600 Indians were there, particularly in the West British Columbia area, Vancouver area. So they came to know that there is a person, our own man, who is highly educated. The immigrants were not educated. They had serious problems at their place. They are being ousted from Canada to a country, very small country, especially yellow fever with no income. Honduras, yes. So they came to know from the press. They wrote to Sanji that we are in this problem. Can you help us? Sanji left his studies in between, went to help them. For 2 years, he guided them. A large of schemes were made. Trusts were mining as trust company. He purchased 250 acres of land at Legal Harbour, 10 acres for Gurdwara, and also among the white people who were coming to him for guidance, spiritual guidance. One of them got into serious problem. He has gold mines in California. His partner was deceiving him, and he was to lose a lot of money. He came to Sanji that Guru Nanak has directed me to meet you to help this. Sanji said, I had no money. I had only hardly 5 cents in my pocket. How can I help you? So before discussing anything, he took his hat and put at his feet. Guru Nanak has asked me to go to you. Then he said, all right, now there is no way. You give me money for a ticket, I'll go and meet my brother. So he went there. He also, during this long story, at this time, he raised $50,000 for this Crawford, for the gold mines, and he in lieu of that, for 1/4 of his shares, they were given to the Khalsa, in Canada. So, and the idea was that with that money, they will success 6 university in Canada. That was that white that Miss Crawford also wanted this. He became so devoted to Guru Nanak. But then Sanji arranged all these things. Then public lectures were arranged. As a result of this, there was a stir in the Canadian government. And ultimately, the government appointed a commission. The commission had to come, report, a long story, but ultimately they yielded and they allowed all Indians to stay in Canada. This is how we are enjoying that status now. And after 100 years of the achievement, the Khalsa Diwan Society, Vancouver, which Sanji himself formulated, got it registered. They remembered him, and about 5 students in Canada are selected every year and given a fellowship in the name of Sanji, to remember him as his contributions. After from this, then he was the first person to open Sikh Gurdwaras in the West. The first Gurdwara in Stockton, USA, that was opened in 1912. Then Victoria, BC, in Canada. Then the Shepherd Bush in London, first Gurdwara Europe. So in Europe, in Canada, in America, the first Gurdwaras were established by Sant Teja Singh Ji, along with his studies. Then thereafter, the Sadh Sangat at UK, they said, Mr. Singh, you have come here to earn a degree. So far you have been involving yourself, you have left the studies, you are involving seva, doing service to everything here and there. And then now we urge upon you that you promise here in the presence of Guru Granth Sahib, yeah, you work for a degree and only go back with the degree. So Sanji then obeyed that command, and he approached Cambridge University, where he has finished his studies, except one term, so that he can complete that, but they didn't allow him. That Mr. Singh, you are not a student, you are doing a political work. We can't give you degree. Columbia University gave the same answer. But then he has no other to find admission in some other university. So at Harvard he has applied before coming to India. He tried that. So Harvard University admitted him. He successfully completed that degree, Master of Arts in English Literature. And with the high standards he passed that degree. And then thereafter when he came back to India. And coming to India also, he involved himself totally in education process, in schools, in colleges, but particularly under the command of Sant Atar Singh Ji. And he also, when you went back, then Atar Singh said, now Mr. Singh, you had degrees from abroad, you had degrees from here, now you are staying here now with us, now you earn a degree of Brahm Vidya. And so this is by doing selfless service, serving the people, and also meditating on the divine name and all that passage. So he literally followed whatever Sanji Singh Ji guided him. As a result of this, he came to a situation which in Gurmat we say a Gurmukh, a God conscious person, a person who is with God. He is molded his career. A very highly educated person writes himself that this person not believing in religion, educated in Western type of education. His father was a doctor, and then by coming in contact with the Guru Nanak's way of life, that has changed him entirely, and he has become spiritually a very blessed person, spiritually a very happy person, like a blossoming in a garden. And said that anybody who follows this method, he can also achieve this. And so thereafter he has been doing a lot of service in education, various colleges, schools, and a place named Badu in Himachal Pradesh state of India, in northern state, in hilly areas. He selected that area, bought 400 acres of a village. That was an isolated area, although it was a beautiful area with valley, surrounded by 7 peaks of hills, with a good fountain, good spring water, nice clean water. But that was a very difficult to reach there as it was infested with the wild animals like bears or even tigers like this. But after that when that was bought, Sant Teja Singh Ji had a Khand Path of the Holy Bani of Guru Granth Sahib, and at the time of Ardas he bade Guru Nanak. Guru Nanak blessed this place so that here is established a very high standard institution of education where students from far and wide they come here, they get education. Along with this also they mold their careers in the way of Guru Nanak. So as a result of this they become ideal persons, global citizens, good citizens, useful human citizen, so that they can work as doctors, engineers. Also the same time they give the message of Guru Nanak that the Almighty God lives in everybody. Whether the person is a black, a white, or brown, or of USA, or any place, Africa, India, there is the divine in everyone, same divine. If the same divine is there, then we are all spiritually brothers and sisters. If we understand this philosophy of Guru Nanak, then there will be peace in the world. No quarrels, no atom bombs. That's the only way which can help us. And this was the message which Sant Teja Singh Ji spread when he was a student, when he was in Punjab, and also when he was invited specially to international conferences, one in Berlin in 1912 and other in Japan in 1956, where he gave the message of the way to establish permanent peace in the world. It was based on his long lecture, based on the examples from Guru Nanak's Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj. And he urged upon all the nations of whatever religion they possess, whether Christians, Mohammedans, or of any other religion, Hinduism, that they should all the leaders of spirituality of every faith should endeavor to inspire their nation to meditate on the divine name in whatever manner they want to do, but only with sincerity of achieving that goal. And if you all do this and perform righteous actions and also to share unity to the others, if we follow this, there will be peace in the world, which is highly applauded, and particularly when he was in US in Berlin. This is, all the people shouted, this is what we want. This is the way how can we live in peace. And he was highly appreciated. So like this, so as the center, now you have seen that Baba Iqbal Singh Ji, he is heading that center, and that as a trust which Sant Teja Singh Ji formed, I am also vice president of that trust, and in that trust now several schools have been opened. I see, visualize Sant Teja Singh Ji. That's like if you see a banyan tree, I don't remember the Latin name of this, but banyan tree is a large tree, very shady tree, thick leaves. People sit under this, and but if you look at seeds, a very small seed, and so when he performed Ardas at the time of opening of the center, Guru Nanak blessed us that like a tiny seed of this boar tree, when it grows into it, branches in a very wide area. Similarly, center which will be established here, it will branch at a sensitive area. That has literally happened. From a single Akal Academy, a school, a English medium school in which Punjabi Gurmukhi is taught, where students live as a Guru Sikh and also study the best type of education. From one school, and now we have 130 schools, not only throughout North India, Punjab, Haryana, Rajasthan, Uttar Pradesh, Himachal Pradesh. And along with this, a university at Badu Sahib, very eternal university, very successful university, getting in doctorate degrees in various electronics, computer science, other branches of engineering, nursing, and spiritual sciences, economics, 10 schools and advanced schools in economics, physiology, chemistry, biochemistry, biotechnology, like this, nanotechnology also. So like this. So with this, there are a number of other centers, the centers for this the society, like empowering women, several projects to help the women to grow. Then also de-addiction centers, then medical centers, a hospital with 200 beds where medicine is given free to the poor people, and doctors from various places, even US, from Canada, from India, they come and hold camps there, perform free operations like this. So similarly, we have many other activities which are going on their stress, and looking at the progress of stress and their impact. In the beginning we discussed about the bad effects of green revolution, that people have indulged in intoxicants, young generation have failed to get education, and so therefore these schools are a boon for that. All schools, academies being situated in rural areas, the rural students are able to get good education, and they are able to compete for admissions in medical colleges, engineering sciences, even military, etc., successfully. At the same time, the entire population of thousands of students now studying, more than 60,000 students, they are all totally drug free, and with that, and all the sick students, they are in sick form. All other students in their own way, Hindus, Muslims, all study there, and nobody has any, no intoxicant, no drug. The drug free environment. Teachers also drug free environment, whether they are Hindu, Sikhs, or whosoever, they are on merit, but they are drug free. As a result of this, students have inspired their parents, their relatives, to be drug free. In the area around the academies, it has become drug free. The government reports this, of the improved education and the freedom from the drugs as a result of this. So looking at all this progress, the people from the plains, Punjab, Haryana, and also the government of Punjab, who visited Badu Sahib Center, they were so highly impressed with this. They wanted you establish a university in Punjab. So at the request of the government and the people, the Kalangita Trust and society, they have decided to open a university in Punjab, but at a place which is a sacred place, blessed by Sri Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj. That place is called Damdama Sahib, because where after fighting the cruelty of the rulers at that time, Guru Gobind Singh Ji, after sacrificing his own 4 sons for the sake of humanity and sacrificing many other his disciples, but fighting cruelty successfully, from Muxar he came to this place, rested here, and at this place he blessed this, he compiled, he directly wrote, again dictated the entire Sri Guru Granth Sahib from Ik Onkar to the end, including the Gurbani of Guru Tegh Bahadar Sahib Ji in this holy scripture. And this holy scripture was taken to Hazur Sahib thereafter, and was given the status of the Guru of the whole community. That's what called Sab Sikhan ko Khamai Guru Manyo Granth. That's our Shabad Guru, in which we believe, in which we get guidance, not only Sikhs, but for the whole community. This long story. Similarly, at this place, after completing this work, then he blessed this place and said that this place will grow into a very high level of education center, and that he called as Gur Kashi. Kashi means a learning place, a learning center, highland center. Such place was at that time in Banaras called Varanasi. He said that will be a Damdama Sahib, Gur Kashi. This will be a very known institution of high international standard. So that has now decided to place the university at that place. It has started, construction work has started, plans have been formulated. There will be two main events in this university. One is the Holy Shabad Guru, the Gurbani in Sri Guru Granth Sahib, which is written in Punjabi in Gurmukhi script. This will be translated into the main languages of the world. Because this message of Guru Nanak is for the humanity, not for individual this and that, for the whole humanity to follow this successfully, which has proved a success. So it will be translated into all the Spanish, English आपको तो translate available, Spanish, French, German, Russian, and all those main languages, Japanese, and all those things. And then, along with this, the students of this caliber will be prepared, who will take this message and spread in the whole world. Long question. Then Center for Cancer, which is a very serious disease in that center. Of course, along with this, there will be all science colleges, engineering college, agricultural, veterinary science, and nursing college, medical college. They will come in the process. But these moon centers, so construction work is already on a war footing. We hope to complete part of this in July 2014, start some courses and others. But this project is a very expensive project. It's estimated to cost $100 million, 500 crore rupees or $100 million. So that's why we are approaching people. Baba Iqbal Singh Ji is old, is coming here, meeting people, addressing Sangat in the Gurdwaras, private places. Why? For what? Please donate from your income for this noble cause, so that we are able to fulfill the mission of Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj, which he has visualized at that time, and time has come to fulfill that vision. So we should all join this, so this 100 million project is completed soon, and we are able to abide by the guidance, by the mission of Guru Gobind Singh Maharaj. Thank you very much.
We will definitely be having a link
Yeah.
on our website because it's truly a great project.
Yeah.
Dr. Gill, thank you so much for coming today.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm happy to talk to you. All the best. Yes, Raji Khalsa.